Picture this. It's the 1st century AD in Rome. The emperor is the most powerful man on earth, commanding legions, building empires, and declaring war on a whale? Yep, you heard that right. Today, we're diving into one of the most bizarre and frankly hilarious episodes in Roman history. The time Emperor Claudius decided to fight a killer whale in a harbor. So, who was this emperor? Claudius. He's often remembered as an unlikely ruler. He had a limp, a stammer, and was largely overlooked by his imperial family, the Julio-Claudians. Think of him as the quiet cousin at the family gathering who suddenly becomes CEO. But despite his physical challenges, Claudius was actually a pretty capable administrator and a sharp guy. He oversaw the conquest of Britain, built aqueducts, and passed important judicial reforms. But none of that is as memorable as his epic showdown with a sea creature. Our story takes place in Ostia, the main port of ancient Rome. It was a bustling hub, a gateway for all the grain, wine, and exotic goods flowing into the capital. Imagine the scene. Massive ships, busy docks, sailors from all over the Mediterranean. One day, this bustling normality was interrupted by a very unusual visitor. A massive killer whale, what we now call an orca, had chased a shoal of fish right into the harbor. Now, ancient sources, particularly the historian Pliny the Elder, tell us this wasn't just any whale. It was a behemoth. It got itself stuck in the shallow waters after the tide went out. The whale was thrashing around, trying to get free, and in the process it was doing some serious damage. Reports say it was swamping smaller boats with the waves it created, causing chaos and panic among the sailors. The harbor was essentially shut down by this one, very lost, very big animal. Word of this unusual predicament reached Rome, and, of course, the emperor's ears. Now, a different ruler might have seen this as a logistical problem. Maybe they'd send some experts to try and guide the whale back to sea. But not Claudius. Claudius saw an opportunity. An opportunity for what, you ask? A spectacular, over-the-top public spectacle. Remember, Roman emperors had to keep the people happy. The concept of bread and circuses was very real. The public craved entertainment, and the grander, the better. Gladiatorial games, chariot races, and exotic animal hunts were all part of the imperial PR machine. A giant sea monster trapped in the main harbor? This was a gift from the gods of entertainment. So what did Claudius do? He decided he was going to personally lead an operation to kill the whale. And not just quietly, he was going to turn it into the must-see event of the year. He gathered his personal bodyguards, the elite Praetorian Guard. These were the best of the best, the Roman equivalent of the Secret Service, decked out in full armor with shields, helmets, and swords. Their usual job was protecting the emperor, not fighting marine life. Claudius then traveled from Rome to Ostia with his entire retinue. The news spread like wildfire. The public flocked to the docks of Ostia, climbing onto warehouses and ships to get a good view. This was better than the Colosseum. This was live, unscripted, and utterly insane. Claudius ordered his men to stretch massive nets across the mouth of the harbor. The goal was to completely trap the whale, ensuring it couldn't escape if the tide came back in. Once the trap was set, the battle began. Claudius boarded a ship, surrounded by his Praetorian Guard on other boats. They were armed not with fishing gear, but with military-grade lances. Imagine the scene. The Emperor of Rome, in his full imperial regalia, standing on the deck of a ship, pointing dramatically at a confused Orca. His elite soldiers, armed for a land battle, are nervously bobbing in small boats, trying to get close enough to a creature many had probably never seen before. The crowd is roaring, cheering on their emperor as he wages war against a whale. It's the kind of thing you couldn't make up. The soldiers rode in, and on Claudius's command, they started hurling their lances at the trapped animal. It was less of a hunt and more of a one-sided assault. The whale, stuck in shallow water and unable to properly maneuver or dive, didn't stand a chance. It was a chaotic, bloody affair. The soldiers, likely having zero experience in whale fighting, were probably just as scared as they were aggressive. Pliny the Elder even describes one of the ships being swamped by the whale's desperate thrashing, adding a little bit of peril to the spectacle. But in the end, the outcome was never in doubt. The sheer number of soldiers and weapons overwhelmed the animal. The harbor waters turned red, and the great beast was finally killed. The crowd went wild. Their emperor, Claudius, the man some thought was weak, had personally vanquished a sea monster. It was a massive PR victory. He looked strong, decisive, and frankly a bit of a showman. For Claudius, this wasn't just about getting rid of a nuisance. It was a calculated political move. By turning this into a public spectacle, he demonstrated his power and his concern for the Roman people and their commerce. He showed he was a hands-on ruler, willing to get his toga dirty, so to speak, to solve a problem. It was a masterclass in turning a random event into a powerful piece of imperial propaganda. The story was told and retold throughout the empire. It solidified Claudius's image in a way that building an aqueduct never could. It was memorable. It was dramatic. It was a story you'd tell your kids about, the day the emperor fought the whale. Looking back from a modern perspective, of course, the whole thing seems both absurd and tragic. We see an intelligent creature trapped and killed for sport and political gain. But in the context of ancient Rome, it was seen very differently. Nature was something to be conquered and controlled, and exotic animals were props for human entertainment and assertions of power. The bigger and more dangerous the animal, the more glory there was in defeating it. This event reveals so much about the Roman mindset, the role of the emperor, and the public's thirst for spectacle. It's a perfect blend of politics, entertainment, and sheer unadulterated weirdness. It wasn't a war, it was a performance. And Emperor Claudius was the star of the show. So, the next time you think of the Roman Empire, don't just picture legions marching and senators debating. Picture an emperor, a harbor, a whole lot of soldiers, and one very unlucky whale. It's a reminder that history isn't just about grand battles and political treaties. Sometimes, it's about the strange, personal, and utterly bizarre moments that tell us even more about who these people really were. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into one of history's weirdest moments, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more strange tales from the past. Let me know in the comments what other bizarre historical events you'd like to hear about. See you next time.